everyone here today. I'm going to start sharing my screen to get everyone in. Yep. Hey, everyone. Awesome. So, can everyone hear me well? Okay, perfect. So, welcome to the Career Success Edition, everyone here today. So, I'm going to start sharing my screen to get everyone in. Yep. Hey. Yep. So on today's session, it's actually pretty interesting. We're gonna have two mentors from ADPList sharing with us, their journey and as well as experiences and stories in Web3. Basically, today's title is "What is Web3 and why is everyone talking about it?" So today we have like two person who is extremely special to ADPList community as fellow mentors, and I'll share a little bit more about themselves later. And so this session will benefit everyone in design, product management, whether it be you're in engineering or even marketing as well, to learn about Web3 and why it could be important potentially for the future. So my name is Felix. I'm the co-founder here at ADPList, and I'm hosting the session today, and I'm moderating the session today. So I'm very excited about this topic because I've personally, tried studying on Web3. Obviously, I'm still have still got a lot to learn. So sort of like volunteered myself today for this session, and I'm just incredibly excited to be here learning with all of you. So a little bit about ADPList. We're a global community based on genuine connection. We truly want to build a place where mentorship and knowledge is accessible for everyone around the world. And these are some of the community milestones, done over 600 events so far. Very, very exciting stuff coming up for the next few months as well, if you have been following the social media. So some event guideline. This event will be recorded, and by attending, you grant consent. So it will be on YouTube, and everyone can go there and watch for free. There will be a pigeonhole that my team will be sending on the comment section. So if you have got any questions, feel free to jump into the pigeonhole and send your questions forward to us. They'll be viewed by the mentors right after the presentation. There will also be no hate speech, obviously, and no discrimination throughout this event as well. And obviously, we will be very open to taking selfies throughout this whole event. So if you want to take like some photos, if you want to post it on your social media that hey, you're joining this event, go for it. We're always very happy to see folks like yourself posting on social media. And then last but not least, when you post on social media, share your learnings with us as well. We're always excited to see what did you get out of the event, and obviously improve from there. And do tag us on that ADPList and hashtag amazing together. And with that said, I am going to introduce our two very special guest speaker today. So I'm going to spotlight Daryl and Suka. Okay, awesome. So today we have Daryl and Suga here with us today. So I'll first introduce Daryl, which is a fellow mentor. Daryl has over 13 years of experience in project management and production, and a lifetime passion for video games. And he has led about six ship titles and a few active development right now. So he's very active in the gaming industry. He's currently the lead producer at Revolving Games, and he's based in San Francisco based area. So welcome aboard, Daryl.
Thanks for having us, Felix. Thank you.
Awesome. And so next we have Suka, who is currently an investor and a designer. She's based in Brooklyn, New York. So Suka leads emerging design for Adobe Design, and she's behind many immersive design and AI related features found in the Adobe products and services today. Prior to Adobe, Suka led the AR design direction for a Samsung innovation team, and she co-founded and lead the product design for Deco, an AR platform startup. Yep. So welcome to the session today, Suka.
Thanks. It's so great to be here.
Awesome. And with that said, I will let the both of them take over today's session, and both of you can kickstart us with your presentation. So we're very excited for that. So thank you.
Thank you, Felix. I will share my screen and then we'll get started.
Awesome.
So today, we'll talk about what Web3 is and why everyone is talking about it. While there's a ton of information out there that waxes poetically about what Web3 can be, we'll definitely try our best to summarize the most important topics at hand and then give you some insights on what to watch out for. And obviously Felix did a great job introducing both of us already. So I think we can just kind of skip past this slide. And I'll hand it off to Soka to kind of give us like a past, present, and future view of what Web3 is.
Thanks, Daryl. And also thanks, Felix and the team. It's really, I've been mentoring for quite a while at ADPList, and I think I get just as much out of it as hopefully the people I mentor do as well. So hi to anyone I have mentored. Thank you for your time. And Daryl, it's been really great to get to know you and put this talk together. So thanks for all your hard work on this too. I'm going to first start just giving a quick summary of what Web3 is. We know Web 1, which sort of started in the 90s, and it is really about just reading what information on the web. It's static information, and you might search for it and just read it, and that's all it did. But it was also not owned by anyone. It wasn't democratized. People put content up as they wanted to. And then we entered Web 2, which did the reverse. Suddenly, information started being siloed, and we started getting large corporations taking over and owning big platforms, and then they started owning our data. And we kind of entered this sort of ethical dilemma and data issues that we are sort of in today, where we're not really in the place we want to be, where Web 1 originally was, which is a lot more democratized. But it's highly functional, and it's really effective in what it does. So there's been a lot of fight against Web 2, and now we're entering this new era of Web 3. And I have noticed that everyone drops a .0. So Web 3 era, which gets back to wanting to be decentralized again, not governed by corporations, but instead trying to be governed by the community, where it's the attitude of the community and the choices they make together, but also using the modern functionality of Web 2. And that's, in summary, what Web 3 is trying to do. And it's owned by the builders, the users, and it's orchestrated by tokens instead of fiat money. So I think it's good to talk about what is the promise of Web 3, because Web 3 does not completely exist yet. It started, but we're not there yet as it is part of mainstream society. It's still a niche area that people invest heavily in. And it's really it's an umbrella term that encompasses like several ideas of futuristic visions of decentralization. I'm going to keep repeating that word. And it has several aspects to it. The idea is that the three big concepts you need to know are it's on the blockchain. So a blockchain is like a ledger or a book of information, a database. Some people call it like the computer in the sky that has like a history of everything that we do that cannot be changed. And the purpose of that is that it's democratic. No one can tamper with your information. That's the theory. And it's run, and the best example of a blockchain is what we see with cryptocurrencies, with Bitcoin, Ether, and Tether, which are you may have heard those terms before. And so that's a very quick summary of blockchain. The next term you need to be familiar with, if you're not already, you've probably heard a lot about it, is NFTs. They're non-fungible tokens. And this is just a way that you can own a digital asset, and you pay for it with tokens, with cryptocurrency. And the third term, which is my favorite of Web3, is the DAOs, which is it's a distributed autonomous organization. And the purpose of it is to really help groups of people organize and make decisions together. And this is kind of magical when it's on the blockchain, because it can be anywhere, it can scale to any size, and it can run itself without a central organization. So instead of trading services, like I said, like with fiat money, that's real money, crypto uses tokens or crypto coins, and people get paid using tokens that they can then exchange for money later. And the biggest way people are earning money right now, one of the biggest ways people are earning money, is by validating or the transactions on the blockchain. And this is called mining. So the promise of Web3, it could mean that we can own our data, not platforms owning it. We could own our identity. We choose how we present ourselves to people and not governed by corporations. And that we also have a say in actually how it works. We set the rules within our DAO or within the community on a blockchain. But there are still many issues that we need to overcome for this to be a really effective tool. There's environmental costs, there's lots of scams out there, and Daryl will talk more about some of these issues later. But there's also scaling web technologies, and then the blockchain itself may actually cause some innovations to be harder, and we can talk more about that later too. So what is possible? I find you kind of got now an overview of what Web3 is, but Web3 has the potential to do many things that hasn't been possible yet in Web 1 or 2. And the thing that I like the most, that I find the most interesting, is that it can be compostable, which is actually an engineering term, which means that you can take something like an avatar that you might play in a game. You can take it, you can pull it apart, put it together in different ways, and it can be a car. So it just lends to a lot of creativity. And then that can scale with DAOs. So thousands of millions of people can all be making their own objects with something one person has created. And so the player becomes a creator. And this is a way that I'm seeing software being developed in the future. I find that as a software developer for designers, I find that area I'm watching pretty closely as tools become creative, make everybody creative. Okay, I'm getting carried away. So I want to give you an example. So you can break up characters. There's an artist called Sutu, and Sutu is an Australian artist. He's an NFT artist, but he also is a VR, AR, and he's a filmmaker. And he created something called the Sutuverse. And in the Sutuverse, he has created generated avatars. So you pick your own unique avatar that is created just by you with a framework that he has created. And then that's an idea of compostability. He's got different software. He's got software that will create a unique avatar for you. And then it's portable. So that's another really interesting concept about Web3 that really isn't possible in Web 2. It's that you could take your avatar and you could go play it in one game. You could take your avatar and you could put it in Instagram is now allowing you to put NFTs as avatars. So as this kind of, the platforms are getting less power and the individual is getting more power, we're having more power to express ourselves. So this is, if you can play the next slide, you can see some of the avatar masks that he has created. But he has a bigger vision than just these avatars, which represents your identity. He's also creating a game, and you could go to the next slide. And this has just been released a few days ago as a prototype. So the next slide, Daryl, and then that will show, thank you, just a quick video of the game that he's playing, which now you can see more people playing together, people playing in a universe he's created with avatars that the players have created. And ideas like this are going to keep going. It's hard to imagine the possibilities of things that you can create in Web3, just with those two ideas of portability and compostability. Okay, so now we are going to head into another section that Daryl's going to talk about. And we're going to say, we've talked about what it is. We've talked about what's possible in a small degree. Now we're going to talk about what the bullshit is and what the real is. Handing over to you, Daryl.
Sure. Yeah, so I think it's very important to highlight, like with any new emerging technology, there's always two sides of the coin. It's not really black and white. There's definitely a gray zone here. So we're just going to cover kind of three high-level bullshits and three high-level reals that are the good parts of Web3. So the first point is that NFTs in games can be a big scam, right? So case in point, this is a game called Pixelmon. These voxelated Pokemon drew a lot of hype as the developers touted this vast open world RPG where you can collect these Pixelmon. And honestly, who wouldn't want a huge open world Pokemon-like game? So think of this as like a game as like Minecraft meets Pokemon, right? And so you see here, this was what was advertised. This was the initial set of NFTs that were announced, and the developers released a collection of about 10,000 of these Pixelmon NFTs in this specific voxelated art style. The size of the NFT collection is uncommon, typically in the primary sale where people buy directly from the creators. The price is usually set below 0.1 ETH, which translates to about 280 US dollars. It's only really on the secondary market that prices can rise, like OpenSea and MetaMask. But the team had decided to begin pricing at 3 ETH, which is 3,000 times the typical primary sales, which is like $9,000 for one of these NFTs. And the collection sold out in an hour, with NFTs selling between 7K to 9K each, and they managed to raise $70 million, like big promises, big dreams, right? But then this is what people were given, so obviously players were outraged to see this huge discrepancy between what was advertised versus what they received. So those who spent upwards of like 3 ETH, which again is like 9K, lost more than 60% of their money, as the value of these NFTs dropped significantly from this reveal. And obviously this is not the only game that has overpromised and underdelivered. It's kind of a common problem right now. Obviously the crypto market is not doing so well, and NFTs took a big hit because of that. And these types of ventures definitely saw that. So sadly, these are those who bought these NFTs still have these NFTs, although the developers are trying to make good on updating the art style of the game. So really, rule number one, never take the game out of the oven too early. The second bullshit we have is that there's a lack of inclusivity with hyped NFTs. So case in point, everyone has either seen or heard the name, BAYC or Bored Ape Yacht Club. While there are success stories, this is by far the most successful NFT series to date. This is the case in point. So this guy here, he actually sold for 1,024 ETH 3 weeks ago, which equals about 1.15 million US dollars just for this, with basically this JPEG. So what we're trying to highlight here is what if Web3 actually excludes people because they don't own a Bored Ape NFT that lets them into the exclusive Bored Ape Yacht Club, right? So the price of these NFTs are so exorbitant that it by nature excludes people, without a minimum of 100K of disposable income that they could spend on a JPEG of a well-dressed ape. And secondary to that, NFTs are one of the most controversial subjects encountered from the beginning of sort of Web3's inception. While NFTs are a billion-dollar industry, 80% of the artwork sold on OpenSea is actually plagiarized, fake, or a scam. And case in point, I'll show you 3 images. Can you really tell the difference, right? Which one's the real Bored Ape Yacht Club, for instance? So while someone who is more knowledgeable about the NFT space can tell the difference by looking at these images itself or how much the NFT costs, to the naked eye, these are easily mistaken and interchangeable, leading individuals who don't know any better to easily get scammed. And I'll hand over the third bullshit to Soka.
Thanks. So one of the big promises of Web3 is that you own you become the owner of the internet. You become the owner of your things. No one has part ownership of what you buy or telling you what to do. And there's a lot of dispute over that. And there's one guy in particular called Dan Olson, and he's put together a 2-hour video, goes in depth, and it's excellent. You should really watch it. That explains all the reasons why it's kind of bullshit what they're saying, that you aren't actually going to own it. Eventually, he proposes that it's going to be owned by the tech bros. And he goes on, he talks about NFTs don't exist to buy crypto, so that they can get you to buy crypto. He says, if it looks like a scam, it really is a scam. He says, even DAOs exist to get you to buy crypto. So here's a very cynical view on it. And it's really important when you get into Web3 development or even just looking around and spending money to get both perspectives. So this is a bullshit perspective, and we're giving you also the real perspective. And he sort of says that, so let's say that these tech bros are successful in that they have invested a lot of money in the metaverse, in cryptocurrency, in NFTs, and they're successful in what they've set out to achieve. And in some way, crypto has become part of our everyday life. And we are then forced to connect our digital wallets, our MetaMasks with our tokens, and to participate in society. And this will be providing every early investor a captive audience with a steady flow of income. And then he goes on to quote Gerald Yenen Gerder, best known as Tante, this quote, which I find really illuminating. He said, there's parts of our digital life that currently cannot really sell. But that is just what they want to change. Everything needs to be bought and sold. Everything is just a vehicle for speculation. And by speculation, that means market speculation. A risk, there's a great risk in a currency that you are investing in. The reason you want to be able to resell your access tokens to some service instead of buying them or renting them like you do today is to create even more markets for speculation. And the smart contracts, which is what you buy when you buy an NFT, will be set up in that way, and at every corner of it, they'll profit. So what they're saying is that no matter what you buy and sell, his very negative view, I don't take it 100%, but I really listen to it, is that big companies are investing in this market because they see an opportunity for profit. So be aware. So now we've talked about some of the very negative. We're going to move on to some of the 3 positive reels. Over to you, Daryl.
Thank you. So the first reel is that artists are finally getting paid what they deserve. So right, like NFTs really even the playing field when it comes to artists being able to put their work on sale and still make hundreds of thousands of dollars. Right, like we live in a world now where Sotheby's is selling NFTs alongside a Monet, for instance, and NFT sales in 2021 actually exceeded $17 billion. Sotheby's actually sold nearly 100 million, and Christie sold about 140 million of NFT art and other digital collectibles in 2021. And so like this is one success story, like Mike Winkleman, he's Beeple. I don't know if you heard of him, but he used to sell his digital prints for about like $100 a piece, I think. He sold this NFT for $69 million, right? And he started this piece called Everydays, where starting in 2007, he drew 5,000 consecutive days. And this is a culmination of everything. So someone who used to make $100 a piece just all of a sudden made $69 million just overnight. This one's also very sweet. This is a couple who nearly lost everything. So they lost their jobs and were going to lose their house and their farm. But days before they needed to foreclose, they actually went all in on a 10,000 NFT collection of cartoon ducks that sold for about 120K under 6 hours. So this allowed them to save their home, their farm, and their animals. And never in a million years would I have thought this. Like my wife's an artist. I have friends who are artists that oftentimes do struggle, right? Like you tend to have to put yourself out there, and people might buy your thing for $100, but now this definitely levels the playing field and allows artists their fair share a chance of actually making it big. The second reel that we have here is that you get to own what you make or buy, right? So this in gaming, this is known as a play to earn. So prior to play to earn, we had pay to win. So pay to win is your traditional mobile free to play game where the cost of entry is free, but the game will gatekeep progression at certain points to let players grind to get ahead or pay your way to the top, right? So the difference here is like in a Web3 NFT game, you have this notion of play to earn. So where the cost of entry can be crypto, the idea is that the crypto allows you access assets in the game. These assets range from land to characters to collectibles. Each asset that you buy has a value associated with it. So the value can either increase or decrease based on market conditions, the amount of time you've played in the game using these NFTs, even what players decide to buy and sell these assets for. So if someone raises a ceiling, then the market kind of follows that, depending on how many people are playing the game itself. So in essence, it allows for players to have ownership of these assets in the game. And a lot of gamers can benefit from this mechanic. And most companies look at successes of like Axie Infinity, where many individuals were making more money than playing Axie than they were working their 9 to 5. So there's interesting case studies here if people are interested in it. And lastly, the third reel we have for you today is just shared ownerships leads to shared wealth. So there's a lot of organizations right now that are coming together to build out collections of NFTs that end up contributing back to more important things than apes dressed in fancy clothes, right? So we have like Power of Women, which has a series of NFTs by artist Leah Ibrahim, where a percentage of each NFT sold goes towards elevating specific causes. So some examples include social enterprises tasked with fighting cancer in Malaysia, collectives that help provide menstrual health solutions to girls in developing countries across Africa, and then organizations committed to making pregnancy and childbirth safe for every mother everywhere. Right? And so she has been fairly successful at not only selling her NFTs, but donating to these specific causes. It does keep people accountable when things are out there in this kind of way. The second one is like Crypto Coral Tribe. They donate 50% of all the revenues they get from selling their NFTs into a community-led treasury that is called the Impact Fund. So owners of NFTs get a vote in the Impact Fund, and they get to vote on proposals related to marine and wildlife conservations. And then lastly, there's Soul Trees, which is when one NFT is minted, 10 trees will be planted in real life. So as of April of this year, they planted over 42,000 trees across Southeast Asia, Australia, I think, and then Midwest USA and South America. And I'll hand it back over to Silka to close us out.
Cool. Thank you. So we have heard about the promise of Web3. We've heard about the 3 bullshit scenarios and the 3 real scenarios. We know that Web3 is still evolving. It's just beginning, and there's a lot of concern over some of the issues that are not resolved. So I think it's really important, if you are a designer, if you're a project manager, if you're in tech, that you start to really understand where Web3 is going. It's not going to go away. It is here, even with its faults. And many other technology platforms in the past have had a lot of faults, and we've overcome them before. So let's see this as an opportunity to create a future that doesn't start to go in the direction that Web 2 went, and that stays a little more open and a bit more fairer and just for other people. And we need to define that. So we're kind of at this point in Web 3 where we are at the beginning, and we can actually take this time and our skills and contribute to it being a good place for everybody to be. I also have I just wanted to say that in our deck, we've got links to resources. So happy to share those links in any way that Felix would like us to. And we've got a bunch of other links for designers, because I'm a designer myself, that can help you get started in Web3 if you're interested. And that's it from us.
Awesome. Yep. Thanks for that, Silka and Daryl. Thank you both. Very, very interesting talk. And everyone is like super hyped on the in the comment section. So please send me the link after this, and then we will actually send out as an email to everyone as a takeaway note. In terms of so everyone will get the recording. Everyone will also get the materials that is being shared today. Now, let's dive into the Q&A. I think that's it's very exciting. I've been seeing a lot of questions that are actually being asked, and mostly how do I get into Web3 and so on and so forth. It's a very, very new thing for most people here. So let's get it started. So the first question by an anonymous is how do you see the relation between Metaverse and Web3? So it's open to both of you to answer.
Daryl, did you want to say something?
I was going to let you go first.
Okay. So I've worked in the Metaverse for a few years. I had an AR startup 10 years ago. This is an interesting question because the Metaverse, the concept of it, which is alternate realities. It could be VR, living in a different world. You completely cover your eyes and your ears and you feel like you're somewhere else. Or in augmented reality, where you actually can see the world and digital objects are placed in it and you interact with them. And the Metaverse is ideas of like these different worlds that you can live in or work between, or actually it is just another layer in the world. And I think there's been a huge interest in the Metaverse lately because of NFTs. So as soon as there's sort of some currency ways for people can make money, suddenly people are like spending a lot more time and effort trying to develop these metaverses or worlds. So they're very tied together. They both use the same sort of similar technologies. They both need in that they use crypto, they use a lot of the modern Web 2 technologies, and they're both, you could say that the Metaverse is sort of a place to play for Web 3 technologies, or a place to work, or a place to teach. It sort of is a bit of a user interface for Web 3 in a way.
Awesome. Daryl, do you have anything to add on for that?
No, I think it's a great question, mainly because I feel like Mark Zuckerberg made it confusing for people. But it's a topic for another day.
Hopefully that's cleared up. Okay. Next question. I like this one also. How do I join Web3?
Daryl, why don't you take this one?
Sure. I mean, this is an interesting question because I've met people that just took interest in crypto, for instance, and now work at Coinbase. There's kind of a strange movement of how people end up getting jobs in the industry, and it sometimes starts with just being very open to what it could be and not downplaying the ability for this to create any kind of change, right? And so there was a person that I was following on LinkedIn that constantly posted about his experience just trading crypto, and then someone from Coinbase just kind of hired him, right? And the weird thing about being in Web3 right now is like you could just work a year in the industry and you're kind of considered a professional. So in the current studio I'm at right now, it's like, we need to hire a blockchain expert. I mean, where do you find them? Like people are just started doing it, and so it's kind of like a weird conundrum of like, there's people who are in it from the beginning and therefore got like really senior titles because they've done some mining at one point in their life, or there's people who kind of like fall into it because they just educated themselves about it. I don't think I'm answering the question in a very good way because it's not really giving you a clear direction, but whoever asked this, I'm happy to spend time with you if you want to book time on ADPList to tell you like my journey into it. But in general, my advice is definitely, just read articles, try to read white papers every night if you can, join a DAO, open up, a Coinbase account, get a MetaMask account, get an OpenSea account, buy an NFT, like really just immerse yourself in it for you to understand like where it's headed, because it's veering off into multitude of directions. I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that, Sophia.
I think you covered it really well. I think you covered it from somebody who wants to be part of it, somebody who wants to be working in it. I've got a funny story. The people who are writing smart contracts, which is basically a document says you own an NFT and the business logic behind it, are charging like ridiculous amounts of money because there's just like so needed, and there's so few lawyers who or not, lawyer-ish people looking for those jobs. So there's plenty of jobs in this area, and it will keep growing. I agree with that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Like,
oh yeah, and feel free to book a time with me too. Sorry, I just saw people were booking session.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was thanks for answering that question, Darren and Suka. So like I'm just gonna share like from my point of view as well. Like, there's just a lot of folks. I mean, Daryl said something interesting, just share on social media and like the guy and people kind of hire you for that, which is really true. Like I've seen a lot of that on Twitter, so just want to give that advice a shout out because like it's particularly useful just because like there's not a lot of people talking about it yet. Even though it might seem like everyone is on Web3 and everyone is talking about it, but trust, not a lot of people actually know what they're talking about. So just jump in and just learn, go in that mindset. So thanks for sharing that. All right, just gonna mark this as answer. Okay, what is the role of a product manager in Web3? I believe Daryl, you might have more context from that point. And also Suka, if you want, please share designer as well later on. But yeah.
Sure. Yeah, this is a good question. So a product manager's role, like anywhere really, is just to kind of keep their thumb pulse on the market and determine like if they can make the right calls in terms of feature development or whatnot, anything that carries the product forward. So in Web3, and I could speak specifically for gaming, you could consider like a product manager as someone who, obviously keeps a pulse on the market, plays a bunch of the games itself, and then comes back to us and says like, okay, like X, Y, and Z company are doing this thing. This is a feature I think is something that we should put in our game. Here's my proposal for how we do it better than the competition, right? So I wouldn't say it's entirely different from any other industry that you end up working in, specifically in tech. I think the role is pretty much standardized, even in Web3. You just have to have a knack for understanding some of the terminologies, how we can integrate, your existing systems on a blockchain or in Web3 itself. There's just different questions you would need to have to ask. But I think the fundamentals of what a product manager is still applies for Web3.
Awesome. And Suka, do you want to add, as a designer?
Yeah, I'll add it from a designer's perspective because it sort of relates to a previous question. You really, like I said, we're at the early days. Designing for Web3 is a little bit like Web 2.5. We're not quite at 3. So it's sort of like, think about there's two ways to think about it. From the UI perspective, you need to learn how to, add wallets. You need to know how the currency works and how to put it into a web page. And which is already a really difficult, complicated process. So trying to make that simple is probably your job. The other larger, bigger picture is like, what are the benefits of Web3? Think about that. And then I would be wanting to work on a project and a team that can use the benefits of it, which is something like a DAO that can help to scale projects where it takes masses, groups of people to work together, for example, or when you are co-working together and everyone has to be participants. That's another area that I think Web3 is very strong in. And then you can look at the finance industry, the tech industry, the medical industry, the insurance industry. I'm particularly biased to the design industry, but all those are massive, especially the finance in crypto. You can use your existing design skills and learn about the technology, and you'll probably be able to get a job pretty quickly. Would you agree, Daryl?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. All right.
Awesome. So I'm just gonna mark this as answered. We're gonna take like the last 2 to 3 questions before we wrap up. So this question is by Christina. Hey Christina. So how can a UX designer or product designer be ethical as a stakeholder in Web3?
Silka, if you want to go first, if not, I can.
You go first. I think I've said a lot during the talk already.
Hey, no worries. Yeah, I mean, this is a great question, I think, just for anyone getting into Web3. There's obviously a lot of conversation around how ethical it is to even put something on the blockchain, how much gas you have to pay, right? And this is a conversation I have with my wife a lot is, you'd be surprised how a lot of industries have this very same question that you should ask, right? Like if you think about something as easy as buying your eggs from the store, if you don't buy local, I live in California. If I bought eggs from like New York, think about all the greenhouse emissions just to get one egg from one chicken, let alone the transportation cost that it takes to drive it all the way to my local like Trader Joe's or Whole Foods or whatever. And then me purchasing that for like $8.95. It's the same thing as like putting an NFT on the blockchain, right? Everyone's making a big stink about how there's environmental issues with that, which is completely valid. But you'll find that the successes that are happening right now are these other companies that are trying to minimize the amount of gas it costs for you to trade on an NFT or mint an NFT on the blockchain. So while this question is valid for UX designers and product managers, it's more like you gotta. My current CEO, he says all the time, like, oh, you gotta ask yourself, are we doing anything unethical? And if you feel like it's not, then I think you can go forth. Like, we're not trying to cheat anyone out of making our game. We're not trying to cheat anyone selling our NFTs. Like our company is really committed to making the game first before we integrate any kind of NFT technology or blockchain technology to it. So it's a matter of being that voice at the table and vocalizing your concerns, because if you don't and no one else is, then yeah, you might end up falling into a space where you're constantly questioning this. But if you could go to bed at night without actually having to worry about, is my company making ethical decisions? If you have to ask yourself that, then you should be the one in the room to ask, like, maybe this is not the right move.
Yeah. That's an awesome point. I think what this Web3 gives you the opportunity is to vote on things, to stand up and say stuff. Everyone has a voice. I'm in a DAO, working in a DAO right now, helping out in a DAO, where we want to fund artists, and we decided we're not going to just fund the successful artists. We're going to get a successful artist to mentor an emerging artist that they pick, and then they pick another artist to work with them. So we can keep distribute the money, and we have grants that we're going to give to not the leading artists, because they're going to mentor and they're going to get credit, but to the other two artists, because we want to bring all the other artists up and not just have the few at the top earning. And so that was a choice, and that became a choice because I brought it up. We had that discussion and everyone agreed, and it could have just been what it was previous, which is just let's fund artists. So I think if you have an idea, say it. Really say it loudly, because people are wanting to hear them and wanting to make a change. And even Sutu, who's like a very, very popular artist, has chosen to go on a blockchain that's not so popular called Tezos, because it's better for the environment. And that's a choice that he's making. He's not going to be he could be more popular, but he's chosen this. And he's still doing extremely well. So I think that think about choices that you can make.
Awesome. Thanks, Suka and Daros. So I'll wrap up with one final question.
Yep.
So one of the things is that a lot of people are thinking, in fact, just folks on this call who are very keen on moving, into Web3, right? From a designer and also like from a, project manager or even product manager's point of view, what is the difference in terms of skill sets that is required to actually move into Web3? Right? Is there actually a real difference in terms of product management, in terms of project management? Is there actually a real difference in terms of skill sets required to actually go from a designing Web 2 to designing Web 3? Would love to hear on that, and for the final question. So Silka, if you want to kick us off.
Okay, that's a bit like saying what skills you need to design for Web 2. Like if you're working in an insurance company or you're working in a gaming company, you're going to need different design skills. You'll need more illustration, one you'll need more writing, maybe you'd need more political skills and nuance, and maybe you'll need more understanding in game logic. It's just, it's a technology. It's not a actual experience. You make the experience. So what experiences do you want to make? And then what technologies can you use with it? The only Web3 is it's still there's not, you can use your Web2 technologies in wherever you are, and spend some time learning about Web3, really understanding the concepts, being very good on critically understanding what you're doing, and then learn some of the UI interfaces, which all need to be redesigned. So we're all starting at scratch all the time. So that's my answer. Wish I could tell you, go here, do that, but we're at really early stages in Web3 right now.
Thanks for sharing. And Daryl?
Yeah, I guess the TLDR version is no. There's no other skill sets that like are much different in Web3. I think the biggest thing is, you gotta jump in and get wet, right? Like you have to really kind of open to both sides of the equation and constantly adjust your perspective on the spectrum that you sit on, right? So, you coming into Web3, whether you feel like it's unethical or not, find the ethical companies and then just start there, kind of thing. But in terms of skill sets and whatnot, I haven't yet encountered anything that's much different. Even from the gaming perspective, I worked on AAA games, I worked on AA games, mobile games, and now like a Web3 game, and same bullshit that you need to deal with on all of those other jobs, you have to deal with here. If anything, it's safer to make mistakes here because no one has the right answer. So you just kind of have to try your best.
And get on, like Daryl said, get on some Discord and chat. There's so much great resources out there and people to chat to.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Daryl and Suka. So and just to wrap up as well, I've been hearing a lot of like comments and in terms of like the skill sets that is like different. So it's a very, very important question. Like, at the end of the day, you are still designing for human beings, you're still designing for people, and the skill sets couldn't differ much, to be honest, right? Like the methodology for they use in product management and in design, it's still pretty much going to be the same. So, if you move to Web3 and you suddenly feels like you're designing for some bored apes, you are probably not doing the right thing. So just make sure that you always keep your head straight. And with that said, hopefully everyone enjoys today's session. Very, very exciting session today. And thank you all so much for being a part of this. And special thanks and shout out to Daryl and Silka for being a part of this today's event and session on Web3. So that's it. That's it for today. Thank you all so much, and we will see you at the next one. Thank you all.
Great. Thank you. Bye.